here from East West. We're going to have a look at the US dollar, gold, and silver in this video. Not a great week. It's the metals have been on their backside, but of course we've got the Federal Reserve meeting next week, so Jerome Powell may give the market some fresh impetus. Let's just jump in and take a look. So just starting off here with the US dollar, been a pretty stagnant week, really. I think the biggest movement, of course, has been the dollar yen. So, we are sitting here looking at the dollar index, and of course the Japanese yen is a big component of that. So we can see on the week that the US dollar is really weakened against the yen. The yen's been quite strong. So that's probably held the US dollar back a little bit. And of course, if the US dollar is not going up, that can only be good for gold. But we do just have a trading range set here in the US dollar. This is going to break next week. I think there's little doubt about that after the FOMC. One way or the other, this thing's going to resolve. Now, I was sort of looking for it to push up a little bit further. I'm now not so sure. I think this is much more likely to. I believe that the Fed is going to strike a dovish tone, and that the idea of rate cuts are going to start to firm up. So I believe that the US dollar is probably, or this dollar index is likely to push down further, especially on the back of the expected BOJ or potential hike coming in there. So I think if you get the BOJ hiking and the Fed being quite dovish, that the US dollar is going to, well, that dollar yen is going to have another massive move, and I think that's going to put pressure on the US dollar. I can see it coming down next week. So this is where we sort of left it last week, and this has sort of come down a little bit further than I was looking for. So I was just looking for it to sort of hold this retracement area, but we've kind of come down here and just tapped into this, and we sort of get rid of that. We've kind of just tapped into this lower area. Okay, so I'll just remove this now because it's kind of done, and I think I'll just take the retracement off because that's kind of done. We can get rid of this because that's not really relevant now. So do we have, this is kind of, if this is going to play as an impulse and this is going to come down as a second wave, then this is okay because you kind of expect wave twos to be quite deep. Now, we didn't get a one-to-one move here. So look, I guess there is a case to be made for saying that this is 1, 2, 3, a 4 wave, which didn't. But that's a mighty big 4 and coming down here for a 5. I probably wouldn't play that as a 5 wave, and it's not uber clear to me that that's a 3. So this is becoming one of those scenarios where I can just put the Elliott aside here because I don't think it's helping me out a huge amount. This is kind of just really tracking the stock market. It's just a risk-off environment. Usually I would have thought that they might have come for gold a little bit more. But look, they haven't. So if they haven't, that's just what we deal with. Okay, so this becomes quite simple. We can probably get down here on the narrow, but that's all we're looking for as a signal to go long. I think I was talking about here last week. I might have been talking about looking for this a little bit higher. So this is what I mean. We sort of got that, and then it becomes about waiting for that retracement. And if that retracement doesn't hold, then you don't really have the structure to go long. So if we're coming off here, okay, when we got back here, you're like, oh, okay, well, we've sort of come through, because what I really need to see, and this never gave the signal because look, this just kept going down. What you really needed to see was for the market to stop here and then start taking out this top. Once you got that sort of pattern, then you're like, okay, well, it looks like the downtrend's broken. So, but that didn't happen, and it still hasn't happened here. All we have is a potential start of a leg. What we really need is for a retracement to hold, and then the next move to go external. That's it. It's just trading 101. You don't have to make it any more complicated than that. Okay, so that would just be the point of call next week. It's just quite simple, and I suspect that if we do get a retracement, we'll get some sort of retracement somewhere. But we don't know if this has topped out this run. That when the Fed comes in, that this is really going to help. That's what I think. We're going to get a fundamental tailwind next week. So that's kind of where I see it. I don't know if there's a lot more to say about this just here and now. You just look on the big picture. All we got is a run up and a retracement. It's gone a little bit deeper than I would have liked to have seen, but it's tapped into some nice support. This is just on the daily. But like I said, we keep a look at that hourly, but it just to me looks like, okay, well, we've got 3 waves coming in here, even though they're not exactly equidistant, but that's just the classic trading pattern that you would look for, be it Elliott or otherwise, is the run up, the 3-wave move, correcting it, and then what we just expect the next run. That's just what we do. This could certainly drop, okay, and then something else is going on. We have to rethink our approach. But as it sits here and now today, that is just the point of call. That's what I'm looking for, okay? And I just come down here to the lower time frames, okay? I'll come down here to an hourly, and that I'm just looking for that change of character. Okay, I'll just take the RSI off, but I can't see it yet. I can see you get starts, okay, especially down here on the hourly. You get starts. You're like, oh, okay, look at this. This is going pretty good, okay. And yeah, look, there was trades in there for sure. This first one, okay, so that wasn't great because it went quite deep, but we got there, right, to come off the next pivot. I think maybe I pointed this out last week. What do we get? We got another one, right? Come off the next pivot. What do we get? Didn't quite make it, sadly. But then we topped out. Yeah, and then we failed away. We didn't get anything coming back. But even coming off the bottom here, you can see it starting to climb. What do you get? Okay, we've come down here. This one was a bit deep, but we come up here, ran into this, held, and we extended. We got up to the measured move target. What's the next one? Come off this. Okay, where are we? What are we looking for? And this is on the hourly. Remember, we're looking for the move back here and then the move up here for the rally to keep extending. So that's just what you got to keep an eye on. I think this is not much else to say. But just because it's doing it on the hourly, well, this is the 30-minute, of course, but really you've got to consider the big picture, and really the big structure is still in a downtrend. So you can play those little uptrend games in there while they're there, but what we really want is to get outside this channel and then come up here and probably will break wherever the top this is going to be, but certainly obviously that is going to be a point of call. You see that, you can start to think about longer term trades, multi-days into week trades that are going to take us higher. Okay, silver, a little bit tougher, okay. This is where we were last week, and that was, I said, this is the kind of price action that we were looking for. Well, we kind of got it, but like I said, when you're in that range, you actually need it to break away, and it doesn't, just because it's gone into a range doesn't mean it necessarily going to break away opposite direction. We could just get a trend continuation, which is what we got here. But nonetheless, we are going back into that ranging sort of action that we're looking for, okay. That's the kind of thing we're looking as the trend terminates. Okay, so this trend terminated into this range, and now this little trend is terminated again. But which way will it go? We don't know if it'll go down. We don't know if it'll go up. Okay, it's definitely suffered. There's no doubt about it. And silver's had a much harder time of it than gold. That's for sure. But just looking at this, and keep in mind here, we're just on the 4 hour. I mean, if I'm looking at this move to this, we've just gone through the 100. Okay, but we run right into the 78% retracement line off the bottom of this swing. Okay, so there's a little bit of fib action there, but I don't know if it's enough to lean into and hang your hat on just yet. I mean, we sort of had this broad channel. I mean, that's a very broad channel, which we've sort of just poked through the bottom of. So I'm not super concerned about that. But the steepness of this is probably just warding us a little bit here. Like I said, we're on a 4 hour, but just as we come down here, we got outside the Keltners, and now we've just started to hold. So that's the kind of thing you would expect to happen when you get outside and start free barring outside the Keltners. You're expecting the market to find its feet, and so it's done again here. But there's no magic. There's no trigger here. There's no smoking gun to make me think, yep, let's just get long. It's not there yet. And you can see from this price structure that there's little to go off here. There's not a lot of retracement action. Any retracement is very shallow before you get the next leg down. So, playing this in a straight line would have been pretty easy, but it's not giving you a lot of structure to work off like gold did. So gold's been much more tradable than what silver's been through this whole episode, and that's probably not an uncommon thing to say. I mean, gold is usually a better trading vehicle than silver. But I think just looking at this now, I think what we've got to be careful of is, we have poked through this 100. So the danger here to me would be that silver comes down and comes into its main retracement zone. Now you've got the 1272 to 1382 extension target down here, which just straddles the 50. Okay, so there is that, but the danger here is that we're going to come down and test into here. So that would be what I'd be wary of. Right now, if it just sits here going sideways, it's 50-50 as to whether or not it comes down here, or if it can find its feet and start to rally. Now, like I said, my view of the US dollar for next week remains that it's going to start to weaken and that we're going to start getting some tailwinds. But the weak US dollar doesn't necessarily mean that the metals are going up. but it's sure more helpful than the US dollar going up to have the metals going up. So that is kind of where I'm sitting. I'm betwixt and between here. I don't have much of a view because this is what we're doing, and we are. There is no ifs or buts about it. We are just in a downtrend, okay, until we break this pattern somehow. If we start doing that, I'm coming back and going, okay, well, what can I see here? Do I have a retracement that's gone external? And if I do, okay, well, what am I going to do here? Well, the next thing I'm going to do is wherever the top of this comes in, I'm just going to look for the retracement of that, and that would be probably where I'd be looking to initiate a trade. But until I get that structure forming, I'm not interested, okay? Maybe I'd still look to sell this, but I think the chances for me to sell are diminished now to play any sort of short game. So I am just looking for the long game here. And I think I said that last week, but like I said, this is not super tradable to me. Here I was looking for the long game, but maybe you could have taken a short, but that was a rapid drop, so you would have had to have had eyeballs on that to catch it. But we're in a very steep downtrend here, so yeah, I just look at this. I just keep an eye on that and just look for price to more comprehensively than that, more definitive. You really want to see something like that, and then okay, now we're on. So the way that this eventually built, okay, and that was sadly that was a false dawn, but of course we know that if we go back to the big picture, what we were really looking for is that, which we didn't get because this leg failed all the way down here. So I think that's where I'll leave it, guys. I don't think there's much more to say on the metals because I think we're going to be just holding fire until we get word from the big guy at the Fed, and then we will see what's happening. So that is it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.